All right, let's dive into the story of Nikola Tesla. But we're going to go a little deeper than the usual legends. We're going to try and understand the man himself, using his own words from his autobiography, My Inventions.
For Tesla, invention wasn't just a job, you know? It was everything. It was the very engine driving humanity forward. He believed this so deeply that he said his own life, spent in the act of creation, was little short of continuous rapture.
We all know the name, right? Tesla. He's this legendary, almost mythical figure. But that's the thing. Who was he really? What was going on inside the mind of the man who literally electrified our world?
To really get a handle on Tesla's inventions, you first have to understand his mind. And let me tell you, from day one, it was a mind that worked like no other. So get this, from the time he was a kid, Tesla had this strange condition. He'd be bombarded by these incredibly vivid, photorealistic images from his memory, and they often came with blinding flashes of light. He said it was like all the air around me filled with tongues of living flame. This wasn't just daydreaming. For him, it was a very real and often terrifying experience.
But here is where the genius kicks in. He figured out how to flip the script. To get away from these unwanted images, he started forcing his imagination to go even further, to invent whole new worlds, new people, new places. He basically took a bug in his mental software and turned it into the ultimate feature, an incredibly powerful, disciplined imagination. And all that mental training led him to a way of inventing that was totally different from everyone else. You know, his big rival, Thomas Edison, was famous for his trial and error method, testing thousands of materials to find one that worked. Tesla thought that was a colossal waste of time. He had a much better way.
His method was just mind-blowing. First, he'd get an idea. Then, he'd build the entire machine in his head. He'd refine it, tweak the design, and even turn it on and let it run for weeks in his imagination, just to see where it might break or wear down. Only when it was absolutely perfect in his mind would he ever build the physical object. And the results? Well, they speak for themselves. He claimed that for 20 straight years, every single thing he designed this way worked perfectly on the very first try. No exceptions. It came out exactly as he'd planned it in his head. Just think about that. So you have this one-of-a-kind mind with this incredibly powerful method, and it's about to slam headfirst into the biggest industrial power of the day, kicking off one of the great tech battles in history, the War of Currents. When Tesla got to America in 1884, he went to work for the man himself, Thomas Edison. But they were like oil and water. See, Edison had bet the farm on direct current, or DC, which was fine for short distances, but really inefficient. Tesla, though, he had a vision for something way better, alternating current, or AC. The partnership was pretty much doomed. The breaking point came after Tesla completely redesigned Edison's inefficient machines. He went to collect a promised $50,000 bonus, and Edison just laughed it off, saying, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." Yeah, Tesla resigned that same day. The war was officially on. But to win, Tesla needed to invent a motor that could run on AC power. And the solution came to him in a moment of pure cinematic inspiration. He was walking through a park at sunset, reciting poetry. Poetry! When the entire concept of the AC motor hit him like a flash of lightning, he just grabbed a stick and drew the diagram right there in the sand. After that, his victory was almost methodical. He left Edison, started his own company, sold his patents to George Westinghouse, and then, in 1893, they put it all on display, lighting up the entire Chicago World's Fair with AC power. It was a knockout blow. The War of Currents was over, and the modern electrical age had begun. But you have to understand, for Tesla, the AC motor was never the endgame. That was just step one. He had a much, much bigger and crazier idea. He wanted to build a system for the entire planet. He came up with this thing called the magnifying transmitter, and the plan was just wild. He wasn't trying to send signals through the air. His plan was to use the Earth itself as a giant conductor, to literally make the entire planet vibrate with electricity like a massive bell. To do that, He needed an absolutely insane amount of power. In his lab in Colorado, he managed to generate pressures of 100 million volts. He was creating his own lightning bolts that were over 100 feet long. He was literally playing with the power of a thunderstorm.
And all of this was to build his ultimate creation, the world system. What was it? It was a plan for a global wireless network that could transmit messages, information, and even electricity itself to any spot on Earth with no wires. And just look at what he said it would do over a century ago. A global phone network, universal news, music on demand, sending pictures wirelessly. I mean, come on, does any of that sound familiar? He was describing the internet. He drew the blueprint for the 21st century. The physics behind it was pure genius. Because he was making the whole Earth resonate, the signal wouldn't get weaker as it traveled. An impulse sent from New York would arrive in Australia with the exact same strength. In his own words, distance would be absolutely eliminated.
Now, in the end, Tesla's world system was never actually finished. But his vision, his ideas about the future, well, they're more relevant now than ever. Just look at how far ahead he was. His idea of telematics, which is just the art of controlling vehicles remotely, that's what we call drones today. His world system, as we said, was the conceptual framework for the internet. The man didn't just invent things, he envisioned the entire systems that would define our lives.
But here's the key takeaway for me. For Tesla, this tech wasn't ultimately about convenience or profit. He truly believed that if you could annihilate distance, if you could connect every single person on the planet, you could bring about universal enlightenment and lasting peace. Technology for him was a tool for human unity.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? We are living in the wirelessly connected world that Nikola Tesla dreamed of. We have all the amazing tech he envisioned. But have we achieved that profound unity he believed it was all for? Maybe the most important part of Tesla's blueprint is the one we still haven't gotten around to building.